I'm sure that Adam Silver was curled up in the fetal position on Wednesday night during the first half of that Warriors Lakers game. The Lakers, they are down double digits at the half. And the NBA, they just can't go into the playoffs without their biggest star. LeBron James supposedly is the biggest draw in the NBA, right? He's at the level of Michael Jordan when it comes to drawing ratings. I mean, right? That's what we're told. In case you guys didn't watch the game, which, judging by the ratings for the NBA this season, I would assume most of you didn't. LeBron James and the Lakers squeaked by the Warriors Wednesday night to solidify their spot in the playoffs. Ratings haven't been released at the time that I'm recording this video for the play-in games just yet, but believe me, trust and believe, we will be covering the NBA ratings over the next couple of months right here on the channel. My question today, though, is it a good thing for the NBA that LeBron James is in the playoffs? I thought the Lakers were pretty unimpressive Wednesday night. The Warriors, they were playing with a damn skeleton crew. James Wiseman out. Kelly Oubre out. The only real threat on the floor to score was Steph Curry. The Lakers, they should have won that game by double digits. When I saw the line on that game posted Wednesday morning, I knew that we were about to make a killing at the sportsbook. The Lakers were only favored by 5.5 points. Every square better that we have, bet the Lakers. So you have the Warriors with a skeleton crew, and the Lakers only squeaked by 3 points? I wasn't impressed. I think the Lakers are in real trouble in the playoffs. I don't know how long LeBron James and Anthony Davis can stay healthy. LeBron is getting increasingly fragile in his old age, and Anthony Davis stays on the injured list. Every time someone breathes heavily on AD, he tweaks or he sprains something. But let's go back to my original question. Is it a good thing for the NBA for LeBron James and the Lakers to be in the playoffs? On the surface, you would think the answer would be yes. The Lakers are one of the premier franchises in the NBA. It's always been said that the NBA is better when the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Lakers are title contenders. LeBron James, biggest star in the league, but with everything that has happened the past few years, and especially the past 12 to 18 months, I'm not so sure that it's a good thing for the NBA for LeBron James to be in the playoffs, at least from a television ratings perspective. I've told you guys before, you have good heat and you have bad heat. I believe the last time that I used this analogy, I used professional wrestling as a comparison. 10 years ago, LeBron James had good heat. He had great heat. He was coming off the decision, which rubbed a lot of NBA fans the wrong way. He formed a super team in Miami with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Fans across the league hated LeBron James and the Miami Heat. They packed arenas when the Heat were on the road just to boo the hell out of them. NBA ratings for that season were the highest since the Jordan era. That is what I'm talking about with good heat. Fans outside of Miami, they hated LeBron James and the Miami Heat, but they were willing to tune in to watch them lose. They were essentially hate watching, as I like to call it. There's a big difference, though, between back then and now. Back in 2011, LeBron James was able to draw a big audience because he had two things: a clean image, and more importantly, he had credibility. Yeah, LeBron was hated by most of the NBA audience, but it wasn't a personal hatred. People still respected LeBron James, the person, the man. They respected his skills on the basketball court. Now, contrast that to how LeBron James is viewed in 2021. It's completely different. LeBron has ruined his image with over half the NBA audience. Simply put, LeBron James has lost all credibility with most people. I feel like the George Floyd incident, I feel like that could have been a turning point for LeBron James and the NBA as a whole. This time last summer, after George Floyd was killed by police, they had most of America on their side of the argument. People were already tiring of LeBron and the NBA being so political, but ratings had been on the decline at that point for a couple of years. They finally had a case where damn near everyone in the country agreed with them. The police were not justified in killing George Floyd. Most people agree on that. The problem, though, and this is always the problem with the wokers, they couldn't let it go. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Remember when all the idiots were rioting and tearing up the streets last summer? That was the perfect opportunity for LeBron James to speak up, use his platform for something positive, and speak out against the violence in the streets. LeBron and the NBA, they stayed silent. The crazy thing is, LeBron had the perfect dude to link up with to speak out against the violence in the streets right down the road from him in Calabasas. And that dude was Master P, a name most of you probably haven't heard in a long time. Master P does not get the credit that he deserves for being the businessman that he is. Dude owns a business in damn near every industry. Unlike LeBron James, Master P is actually a real role model. He was vocal last summer speaking out against the violence. He was promoting education and entrepreneurship as the answer to the problem. He was saying that instead of burning down the streets, burning down your own neighborhoods, black people needed to come together and buy back the streets, build them back up. LeBron James, on the other hand, said absolutely nothing. Silence, which is basically an endorsement of the violence. Then the Jacob Blake shooting happened in Milwaukee. If you're LeBron James, that is not the case you want to get behind to promote your cause. It wasn't cut and dry like George Floyd was. Many felt that Jacob Blake was in the wrong. The Milwaukee Bucks, they end up boycotting a playoff game over that shooting. Now, instead of LeBron stepping up and leading the NBA, he followed suit. The entire league shuts down for a couple of days in the middle of the playoffs. That was the point that I knew that the NBA was screwed. It is hard to come back from that. Boycotting playoff games, the entire league boycotting playoff games over police brutality? When the police were absolutely justified in what they did? That is not the way to get America on your side, which is exactly why we saw record low ratings in the playoffs last year. Then you fast forward to a couple of months ago, and LeBron James puts the final nail in his credibility coffin. He had already lost all credibility by this point with a lot of the audience, but America's a forgiving country. He had kept his mouth shut most of the regular season up until that point, at least on political issues. Maybe by the time the playoffs came around, people will have gotten over everything that LeBron and the NBA had done last year, come back for the playoffs. One simple tweet by LeBron James ruined any chance of that happening. And you guys know what tweet I'm talking about. The two black girls are fighting. I think they're teenagers. One tries to stab the other in front of the police, and the cops shoot her. They kill her, saving the life of the victim. LeBron James, he tweets a picture of the cop saying, "You're next," with an hourglass next to it. If LeBron had any credibility left, he killed it with that one tweet. He just showed how uninformed he really is with that one tweet. So to answer the question, is LeBron James and the Lakers making the playoffs good for the NBA? The answer is hell no. I know right now Adam Silver thinks it's a great thing. I know he was sweating when the Warriors were beating the Lakers the other night, but this is bad for the NBA. People are purposefully not watching because they don't want to support LeBron James. The Lakers' first round series with the Phoenix Suns, on paper and on the court, should be an exciting series. It should be must-see TV. No one cares. No one cares. From a mainstream perspective, it will receive little to no attention. Let's assume for a second that the Lakers make it out of the Western Conference. LeBron James, AD, they can stay healthy, and they meet the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA Finals. Once again, on paper, this should be ratings gold for the NBA. Two teams and two of the biggest markets in the country. Both teams loaded with stars. LeBron and AD in Los Angeles, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. But the problem is the stars are the problem. They're the reason people aren't watching. If that is the matchup for the NBA Finals, it will be the least watched in the history of the NBA. It will be worse than the ratings for the finals last year, which were the least watched. Why? Because it would feature two of the most unlikable stars in the NBA, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James. It's going to be an interesting couple of months monitoring the ratings for the NBA playoffs, and you already know that we are going to cover it extensively here on the channel. Once the ratings are released for the play-in games, I expect it to be maybe tomorrow, sometime this weekend, tomorrow being Friday when you see this. But once the ratings are released, expect a video from me about it, whether they're up or down. All right, kind of let me know what you think. LeBron James and the Lakers, they've clinched a spot in the playoffs. You answer the question, is this a good thing for the NBA, or would the NBA have been better off with LeBron James sitting out the playoffs this year? Sound off in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.